That's never been seen before. This emission that we're seeing is thermal emission. Even on the night side, the surface of Venus is so hot that it's glowing faintly at very red wavelengths.
These whisper images, I think, are really exciting because they provide a new window into the lower atmosphere and surface region of Venus where these extreme conditions exist. Another really interesting thing we could look for is potentially mineralogical differences. Different rocks and different minerals emit different levels of heat. We have chemical fingerprints in Venus's atmosphere and on its surface, suggesting that Venus might have been habitable in the past.
This is something that's truly new, and I believe will yield exciting science in the long term.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Scott Roberts from Explore Scientific and the Explore Alliance, and we're on the 29th episode of Focus on Astrophotography with our special guest, the astrophotographer Gary Palmer. This week, we are going to focus on the latest in astrofilters. And so we've got Tyler Bowman and Annie with us, and of course, Gary Palmer. Guys, how's it going?
It's Friday.
It's Friday.
It's Friday. Other than that, I'm good. I don't know about Annie or Gary.
I'm doing well here. Yeah, we do with some clear skies. That would be nice, and some warmer weather. But hey, yeah, as you say, it's Friday. The weekend's here. It just means a couple more days to work in my world.
We've got a good audience watching right now. We've got Richard Grace and Mike Wiesner's on, Chris Larson, Josh Kovac, Jim Norwood. Who else? Chuck Stock, Shailendra Sharma in London there. Jim's Astro is on. Matthew McLilly. He says, clear skies here in Mississippi. And he's going to the Rainwater Observatory. Pekka's on from Stockholm, Sweden. Let's see, who else? Billy's Astro. Astro for Dummies.
I don't know who that
Billy's
is.
Astro. Who else? I like that. Norm Hughes, afternoon, Scott, Tyler, the man, Gary, Chris, Billy, and Jim. Who else?
Wade Prunty's asking, I still need an ED 115. What's the deal?
What's the deal? Yeah. There weren't that many of them, and they're being redesigned. Pamela Morgan says, hey, neighbor Chris. Let's see. We don't know where Pamela's from. Centil Nagapan's on. Annie Scarborough, who's also going to be presenting, is on. Who else? David Samard. And of course, Wade. Egon Reich. He says, hello, Scott. Thank you. And Miguel Vega, hi from Bolivia, expecting clear skies. They have lots of clear skies in Bolivia, I think. So, well, I guess I'll let you guys take it away. I know that we got, and those of you out there in the audience, if you have questions about filters, this is your chance. Okay.
Mhm.
Gary has tested a lot of different filters and has taken deep dives into astrophotography with filters, and he always gets the latest stuff. So this is it.
So Annie, I know you got a little announcement to do. So why don't you go first, since yours won't take as long as me and Gary's talk.
I might take as long as you. I don't know.
Mhm.
Okay. Anyways, okay. So we're gonna announce the astrophotography winners for our last astrophotography contest, which was meteors. And so let me see here. I gotta start my screen. Bear with me. It is Friday, definitely Friday, and not really wanting to, my brain doesn't really want to function like it's supposed to. So, okay. There. Okay. Can you see that? Does that look good?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So this is our astrophotography contest. We had five, I think we had 5 entries. And so let's see here. I gotta make it play. Give me a second. My screen went away. There it is. Okay. So it ran, I think we ran it December all the way through the end of January, I think is what we did. We had a couple of hiccups along the way, but we had some great entries. And so we had 5 people enter. And of course we had, first through third, and then of course, honorable mention. It's somebody who's not ever entered a contest with us before. So here we go. This is our honorable mention. This is Patrick Stonehouse. We've never seen his work before. And so we really liked this photo. This is really good. This is a really good photo. So we have this one. And then the next one, third place, is going to be Mike Wiesner with his, he's got a couple of different things going on in this photo. His couple of meteors in there. And then of course, a couple of other objects as well. So it was really neat because Mike, before I saw the actual photo, Mike sent me a kind of a diagram. I don't even know what you would call it, of what everything was in the sky. So I'm going to show that as well. So you can kind of see what all he captured in this photo. And there it is. So he has Mars, 2 meteors, a comet, and then Arcturus in that photo. So I thought that was really neat. So this is third place. So congratulations, Mike. That's a great job. Second place is going to be Josh Kovac. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. It's absolutely beautiful. So I didn't really go over what they use for. I didn't have time today to do that. I apologize for what they use to capture their photos, but of course we'll be able to display that whenever their photos go up on the website and stuff like that. So
Yeah, and they're also here in the audience, so they can tell us
yeah,
in chat, right?
yep. So yeah, yep. If you're here, hop on and tell us what you used. But yeah, we just, it's amazing. I think it's amazing how you can get such detail in things that you just don't see with the naked eye. It's absolutely amazing. So that's second place. And then our first place winner is Carl Bernhardt. We chose this one because between the Milky Way, a meteor, and then absolutely being able to get the reflections in the lake, I was absolutely stunned at this photo. So it's a great job. He did a great job. So yeah, so that's pretty much that's our winners. Of course, first place will get $100 gift card and an upgrade. Second place gets a $75 gift card and an upgrade in their membership. Third place gets a $50 gift card and upgrade in their membership. And then honorable mention will get a $25 gift card and an upgrade in their membership. And then of course, everybody will get a print with their photos and with mounted with foam board. And so we'll get those out as soon as we can. We do those in-house here. So it takes a little bit of time because our printers print them, and then we cut the mounts for them. So it takes a little bit. And I appreciate everybody's patience in that. So we'll get those printed and the mounts cut, and we'll get those out to you guys. So Tyler, do you have anything to say about them?
Fantastic job. Now we got to come up with the next one.
Yes, we definitely have to come up with the next one. We haven't even talked about it. I don't even know. We haven't even discussed it at all.
I'll think of it over the weekend.
Maybe you can take audience suggestions on what the next one should be.
It's true.
That's a great idea.
Great ideas.
It's galaxy season coming up over the next month.
It's true.
Yeah.
Right?
Galaxies now.
Yeah. What do you guys think of galaxies? We'll see. We'll see. Okay. All right. Well, Annie, thank you very much. And let's get started. Let's take this dive into filters and astrophotography.
So if anybody doesn't know who Gary Palmer is, Gary Palmer, in my opinion, is world-renowned solar imaging. He's the beta testing king. He literally tests everything from mounts, telescopes, cameras, filter combinations, film flatteners, focal reducers, all of it. And Gary was nice enough to come on, and I know his experience with filters due to the fact that there's there can be a lot of information about filters, like what's a visual filter, what narrow band should I be going for, to depending on what light pollution you're in, what narrow band or nanometer should you be going with, to dual band, quad band, tri-band, whatever, and to mono imaging. So Gary hopefully will bestow upon us his wonderful wisdom, as he always does, about filters.
Thanks,
Gary.
Tyler. Yeah, thank you. Always nice to be on here. We didn't really sort of prep this, so we are asking the audience to ask us some questions on this, and I will start this off by running through a few things. So quite often the first thing that comes up with filters is the size. What size filter should I get? Yeah, should I save a bit of money, get a 1.25 filter? Should I get them unmounted, mount them in a filter wheel? Should I go for 2-inch filters? Or you can go for something like these. If I unwind this and these start to break the bank, these are 50mm unmounted filters, and there's 7 of them in here. So if you start looking at filters on that sort of basis, if I'll shine that at the light, you'll see the square filter in now.
Is that a 50
start to get
millimeter?
50 millimeter square. So this is huge. It might not look big, but holding it here, it's heavy. Yeah.
That's full frame, right, Gary?
Yeah, that's sort of a bit over full frame in a sense. Yeah, that's one of the Kodak sensors in there. Yeah. But really, when you're looking at this, you do have to think with filters. Let me just put that somewhere safe so that I don't drop it.
Don't drop that.
Yeah. The thing with filters is really you have to avoid some of the cheaper ones. That's the first thing. Yeah. Cheaper ones do lean themselves towards visual for starters. And you also have to think in this day and age that the cost of cameras has come down a lot. You know, over the last 5 years, you know, most people have got more than one camera now. Even if it's a guiding camera, they've got more than one camera apart from their main imaging thing. And the problem is if you go for a 125 filter, you do restrict yourself by the size of the sensor. So if you've got a 125 filter there, and then in a year's time you decide to change camera model and you go for a larger sensor, you're going to find that filter is probably going to restrict you. It's going to vignette. You're going to get all sorts of other issues with it. So I'd probably say to people, you know, think about what you're doing quite carefully before you just chuck your money at it. Now, lots of companies do OEM filters, and what we mean by that is the manufacturer actually offers filter sets, and they vary. They vary from manufacturer to manufacturer. Some are really good, some are quite poor, some are really, really basic, you know, in their quality, and that is shown in the images, certainly when you start imaging with these. The other thing that's getting quite common now are these, what we call one-shot color filters. Yeah, these dual band, quad band, tri-band filters. They've really exploded onto the market in the last 3 years. And they've also come down a lot. I think the first one that came out was around $1,000 when I originally saw it. And now, you know, they've come all the way down and you're getting them from more manufacturers. But they do have limitations. There's two things on them. First thing, again, 2-inch filter is always better. Most drawers now, I did purposely pull out this flattener because this is quite common now on a lot of equipment. If I unscrew this, it's actually got a filter holder inside of the adapter ring here. They're nearly all 2-inch. Yeah, you're not going to get one of these as a 1.25. And you just screw your filter in there. Not going to go too mad and screw it all up. Something like that. And then it goes back onto your flattener. So that's your filter installed. And these are becoming really, really popular now. That is a quad band filter in there that I've just put in. But we do have to think about this as a quad band filter. And the manufacturer, I'm not going to say the name, but this one here, so it shows the bands on there, shows that it's got UV-IR blocking. Yeah, a lot of the color cameras have already got that on them. But it's saying that it can see 4 bands. And when we think about the type of camera that it's going on to, it's going on to a one-shot color camera. So it could be something like, what have we got here? That one there. Yeah, that's a 533. That's got filters in there, one-shot color filters. And it's got some of these particular filters in there. They're all lined up in a different order. But this particular one is saying that it can see those 4 bands. And the issue with that is that the color camera won't see all 4 bands. It will see the 2 primary colors there. So it will see the red, which it's saying S2 and HA. To tell the difference on those is going to be really, really hard with a one-shot color camera. So the 2 reds are more or less going to blend together. And normally the other 2 bands are your O3 and your Hydra and Beta. And they're down in the bluey green area. So you're going to find again that they really join together. It's very, very hard to pick out that extra little bit of detail. The reason for that is the way that the camera's made. The camera's got 2 green pixels, 1 red pixel and 1 blue pixel. And that works right the way across the sensor. So if we're thinking about the way that it's looking at a target and the way that it's imaging through the filter, it's only got 1 red pixel in there. there's no way that that red pixel can see both of those channels. It will see a very slight extension in the color or a little bit more contrast. When we look at a mono camera, that's different. It's got every pixel looking at that particular bandwidth. So therefore, it's very, very sensitive. And what you find with these filters is they do work well. They're very good. You know, you've got them from Optolong, Beta, Altair. There's so many different makes now that are on the market. They do work well, and they do offer you the opportunity to image some targets that were quite hard with one-shot color cameras. They really enhance objects now. So like Orion, like, you know, the Hawk's Head, different things like that. But there's no substitute for time. And this is the thing that you find with these particular type of filters. Because you're only imaging with 1 pixel in red and 1 pixel in, or 2 pixels in green, you really need more time on the target. And that's what builds the image. If you try and do these targets with just like an hour or 2 hours, something like that, you're going to find that generally they're there. The target's visible. You can see it in the stacked image. But it's going to be quite awkward, you know, to pull out lots of nice detail. It's going to look quite noisy in the image. The other thing to bear in mind with these sort of filters is moonlight. And this has come up a lot with this. When I did some testing on some early quad band filters, you could really see the moonlight. If you put the telescope at certain angles, you would see the moonlight creeping into the image. Well, that means that the band on them is wide enough, yeah, for that moonlight to creep in. So they're not what we call narrow band filters. They're a wider band filter. And O3 is generally what you will see, or where you will see the object fading. So if it's got nice O3 data, you're going to see it disappearing away. Whereas on a moonless night, then you're going to see that data there and you're going to be able to build on it. But what I'm sort of putting across is that a lot of people say, oh, well, I used one of these filters on a night when the moon's out. You have to be careful how close you are to the moon. And you will get reflections across these sorts of filters. So what bandwidth is narrow and what bandwidth is good for imaging? In general, most filters from 7 nanometers downwards are pretty good for imaging. If they're 12 nanometer filters, they're generally visual filters. They're filters we would put on an eyepiece to enhance something, or maybe, you know, just a little bit of playing around imaging, something like that. And that's where they work in cost. You know, the cost on them changes dramatically. So 12 nanometer filter, you could probably pick up a set of 4 of those for around, you know, $100, $150, something like that. If you start moving down to the 7 nanometer filters, they're probably going to be $100 to $150 each for each filter. If we start moving into the more exotic filters, when we start getting down to 3.5 nanometers, and now the later ones are going to 3 nanometers, they can move from anywhere from $500 to $1,500 per filter. And that would be for a 2-inch size. So something like that one there, yeah, that sort of filter would be around $700, $800 just for that one. Yeah. Then if you actually work out your set and all of these here, you're into quite a lot of money.
Yeah. There's been a couple questions, Gary. I'll start from the bottom, work my way up. Wade Prunty says, from his understanding, S2 and HA blend together as red, but the signal is combined and you'll see the same, you'll see the detail of both, even when you can't tell which is which. Is that true?
Yeah, well, this is what I'm saying. It doesn't really define it like a mono camera. So a mono camera, we will see it defined there. And that's the difference. So you have to remember this also does work on the amount of time, you know, because in the old days before these filters, people used to say, oh, can I image color with a image HA on a color camera? Yes, you can. You get a lot of people say you can't. You can, but you would have to image for 4 times the amount of time to a mono camera. You've only got 1 pixel on there that's red. So it's the amount of time you put into what you're getting. And it will also depend on the type of camera, how fast the optics are. There's 101 different things, but they are slightly misleading. Yeah, in the way that they come across. Really, you're looking at these as a dual band filter.
Sorry, I keep muting myself because I'm waiting for Andy to say something. Do you have any images or anything to kind of show the differences? Because I know you have a lot of equipment and I know you have a lot of data between the S2s, O3s, HAs, and just the differences between the filters.
Yeah,
So you can actually go ahead.
Well, on the last Star Party, we had some data sent over via Jeff. Yep. And I thought the easiest thing was to load that project up onto the system, because that's actually carrying 7 of the filters. The data is there for 7 filters. So we can actually look at these individually and we can say, this is the data that we're getting off of these different filters. Also, it's quite clean data. So therefore, it's going to show you the different structures in the background. So if we just get the screen to share across.
Hey, quick question, Gary.
Yep.
What would happen if you use a one-shot color filter on a mono?
The image, you would see the data, but you'd struggle to extract it. Yeah. So let's say we used one of these dual band filters or an L Pro filter, whatever, you would struggle to extract the green, the red, and the blue of the image. And remember, all color images, whatever way they are, need to be some form of RGB. Yeah. When we image with narrowband filters, then we're manipulating those colors to really, that's to excite us in the image. You know, NASA came up with the SHO palettes and some of the other things. We've got the WHO palette, which is hydrogen, oxygen, and oxygen. So quite often that's used on targets like the Crescent Nebula. Yeah, well, there's very, very little S2 data, or maybe Thor's helmet. Around those sorts of targets, there's very, very little data in a certain gas. But if we actually look at this target, so this is the center of the Rosette Nebula. And if I just pull these images here, just so that we can open these up, I'll move that up the top there. So if we look at the HA, this has been cleaned up a little bit. This is cleaned up, it's stretched, it's ready to stack. But if we look in there, we can see the structural detail, and we can see a lot of structure around here. When we move to the other filters, you see less of that structure or more of another structure. So if we look at this filter here, the O3 filter, it's a little bit darker, that one.
Yeah.
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 But you will see less of the lines in here. So you can see that they're picking up different gases.
Correct.
What I was saying with the one-shot color camera is that it's going to struggle to define these.
Yeah.
With the filters. This is the issue. So this is why people sort of gradually move over to mono cameras. And then if we look at something like the S2 data, you can now see, and S2 is normally the darker of the narrowband filters. So if we look at this, quite often with an S2 filter, you will need maybe another 20 to 30%, if not 50% more data, because it's a lot darker filter, it's a lot more contrasty. So to bring that amount out, these are somewhere around 20, I think they were 29 hours, something like that on this, yeah, to give you an idea. So an hour of data, we would see all the structure around the outside, but we wouldn't see any of the fine detail in the middle.
All the wispy stuff.
Yeah, that's it. And, you know, all of these nice little clouds. But as you can see, if we move the filter back, yeah, switch over to the HA one. So this stuff is more or less non-visible in this wavelength.
Yeah.
And that is the reason for using the different filters. It's to bring out different things. Now, I preloaded these in. I've done this twice just to show us. But we're going to put this in the SHO palette. So we're going to combine them. We're going to use red as the sodium 2, green as HA. And that's because green is very vibrant. The HA will come out when we mix it like this as green.
Yeah.
If we put HA in as red, then it's going to really bleach out all of that fine detail. And that's the reason for changing some of the colors. And the last thing is blue, we put in O3. If we combine those together, just as they are here, this is how it really comes out. This would be more the natural colors. So you get a lot of magenta in the image, and you can still see the HA there is really trying to overtake the image. If we balance the colors up a little bit, then we come up to something like this image. which is now getting rid of the green. It's blending it down. So we're starting to look at the differences. Yeah.
Always impressed by what you can do with Pixel Sight.
Yeah. Some
Golly.
people turn around and I like a little bit of green in my images. And other people, oh no, you don't get no green out there. When you do narrowband imaging, the colors are your choice. They really are. And
It's all personal preference.
Yeah, I mean, you know, to remove the green out of this at this point, we could just use SCNR, bring it in at something like 50% just to start with and see what it looks like. And we just apply it to that image. There we go. We can see the blue now.
See, it dulls it to me.
Yeah, this is it. So you then have to go in and you have to start boosting it up to get it up to this sort of point in the image that's just sitting behind. If we wanted to remove the magenta, which is always the problem, in the SHO palette, then the easiest way to do is to invert the image. If you invert this image now, magenta is green. You can see it there if we zoom in.
Yep.
If I raise the SCNR up, I can then apply that, and then I can invert the image back again.
And Padu, you have now normal stars. Looky there. Just as easy as 1, 2, 3.
It does remove a dimension if you go in harsh with this. This is where I'm sort of going to, because what we're after really is vibrant colors in different areas. And this is why in this one, I've only removed a little bit of the magenta and I've kept it in, and I've also kept some greens in.
Yeah.
But the difference is in the mono filters. If I just close these down, I've got them all lined up here. Yeah, so if we look at the luminance on this target, let's go up. We'll open up the luminance image. So none of these are stretched at this point. You can see the noise in them, but you can also see that there's more
or less the dark structure in there as well.
Yeah, you can see the dark structure, but there's more or less none of the wispy detail, none of the fine detail in there. If we open up the red, let's just get that to come to the front and expand it up. You'll see the same thing again. And this is because of the emission gas that's coming there. So you can see these structures and they will make quite a nice image. You know, at the end of the day, they're going to make you a nice RGB image if you go through these. And you see one sitting there, V-band. V-band is a green filter. Yeah. So it is actually bringing out some quite nice detail. If we zoom in there, these will be noisy. They've not been processed in any way.
Now, Gary, when you say V-band, are you talking about a specific? I classify them as a scientific filter.
These are starting to move up into probably what's the easiest way of putting it? The Rolls Royce of the filter.
That's putting it lightly.
You're right up in the top levels. One of these filters is, I don't know, $1,000, $1,500 each.
$1,300 a pop.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be far off, you know. So once you start loading your filter wheel up, 7-position filter wheel with these, you're into 10K, you know. Yep. But as we could see from the detail on the SHO palette, very, very nice. You know, you can really see what's going on there. But V-band is equivalent to green. Yeah, that's the easiest way of putting it. Yeah. And if we move this down and look at the blue, so you can see while we're imaging, they're all of the primary colors there, the RGB and the L. We're still missing all of this detail. And that's really sort of saying to you that, you know, unless you've got, you know, narrowband filters, a lot of these targets, you can't get that fine wispy detail in and the structural detail. So once they're combined together, they will produce quite a nice image. But they're just quite bland. There we go. So that's not processed. That's just the colors combined. And you can see there, yep, you got the structure there. But this area really just turns into a dark, lifeless area. It's got nothing in it. And then if we go back to the other image there, you can see the difference between the two.
Huge difference, night and day.
And that's your sort of differences between these different types of filters. And that's why a lot of people go for a mono filter. Or a mono camera with filters, sorry, should I say. The problem is with that is then that goes on your location. Because if we're thinking now that really our ultimate goal is to get, you know, a good 7 or 8 hours on a target in a filter, and we've got, 3 or 5 filters or whatever there, then it starts to get a little bit, really, you're now working around how many clear nights you get in a month as to whether you're going to collect all of that data on the target. And that's your key thing then, and this is why one-shot color cameras with these other tri-band, quad-band filters on have become really, really popular.
It's just easier because, I mean, I've taken on projects because I got in the monochrome world, and it is time consuming. It's 100% time consuming. I mean,
what you could do, so you could get something like the 2600, one-shot color. You could get the 2600 mono. You can image in HA. You could image in S2 or luminance. You can use your one-shot color to do the actual RGB data, and then you can play around a lot.
True.
Or if you've got your one-shot color camera, you could do one night with the equivalent of an L Pro or a light pollution filter, LDAS filter, whatever you want. So you could do one night with that. That's going to give you all your nice natural colored stars. And then you could go off and do a image with one of these narrowband filters, like the L Extreme, L Enhance, IDAS again. And you can mix the two images. So you can join the two images together. You can take the stars out of one and put them in the other. You can take the HA out from one and blend it in with the red. The software now is allowing you to do 1,001 different things. That's the real key thing with this. But it all boils down to that time. As soon as you start using filters on there, targets only really start popping out once they get over 2 or 3 hours. So anything like an hour, you will struggle with a lot of these targets.
And that's the thing, either monochrome or one-shot color, they all take time. Especially the longer, well, I don't know if there's a diminishing return in either of those cameras. Gary, would there be a diminishing return in one shot and mono?
I'd probably argue that around that 40-hour mark is somewhere where you're going to start to struggle. You will bring out more in it, but that would be target relevant and equipment relevant. And I think one thing to be very, very careful of, and we're seeing it a lot on cameras, and people will put in different settings and do different things, but you have to be very careful with the gain settings on these cameras now. Nearly all of the telescopes that are coming in are trying to push down below that f6. The f6, the target number, and a lot of them these days are pushing down sub f5. So they're normally around an f4.9. Adding on the flatteners and the reducers, all of these sorts of things. You're getting these telescopes. We've got one in the observatory at the moment, refractor. That is a quintuplet, and with its reducer, it's running at f3.9. So the light that's coming into the system now is phenomenal. That does make it easier to go and image a target. But you have to be careful with the gain, because a lot of people are running these cameras on unity gain. And it's the wrong settings. And that means that your stars are going to have next to no color in them whatsoever. They're just going to be white dots with a color fringe, like looking at a saucer, plain white in the middle and a pattern around the outside of it. And that's caused by getting the camera's gain up too high. Very similar with a DSLR, they might have really good ISO settings on them now for, low noise. But when we're deep sky imaging, we want that down. We need that ISO down to, maybe 600, 500, something like that. And that means that then with the right processing, you get nice colors in your stars. And that's half the battle. It's not just the target. To make a nice image, getting colors in a star is really, really nice as well.
Now, Gary, I know we offer, and I believe Scott posted it on the chat link, well, at least he did on YouTube, that you offer a masterclass here at Explore Scientific. What kind of go over what you do for, I call it a masterclass, what you do in that class?
We offer really anything that anybody wants. That's the easiest way of putting it. So, but really, it's an hour of my time, or whatever somebody books. Some people book like 3 or 4 hours to go through things.
Yeah.
Some people will book a whole succession and split it up over a course of time. And that can either run with the equipment, where we start getting you through the equipment and getting it all set up, and maybe then adding in software for capturing the data and going through guiding and all those sorts of things. Then other people come to us, they might want the processing side, so they've captured the data, or before they've really finished capturing, they might want to come with us and go through all calibration frames, best settings for that, what's best ways to do it, so we cover all of that, or the processing. And it's not just PixInsight. We lean on PixInsight because it's probably the industry leader these days. But don't forget, I'm also doing solar imaging, deep sky imaging, planetary imaging, really anything that moves in the sky, or anything that comes up, it's imaged. So we do this right around the world. We've literally got customers everywhere these days.
So Norm Hughes is asking, so you're basically telling us that we need to shoot below unity gain?
Yeah. So there is a thing on this. If you look at the settings, like if we took the settings of a piece of software that comes out in a popular product, it's now changed from unity gain, and it says a gain setting a low, medium, or high.
Mm-hmm.
Most people who've got the product will know exactly what I mean. That is because the unity gain setting that was dished out before was wrong. And we always said it was wrong, because if you get onto a brighter target, it's a too high a gain. It is miles too high. And some software, so if you don't go for PixInsight, some of the other software that's on the market can't cater for that. And you'll see that in your stars. So if you use Deep Sky Stacker, your stars will come out white. Or an off creamy white. They're not going to have the depth of color in them. And you have to think, if we went to a target like M31, the core is very bright, the outer dust lanes are very dim. So therefore, using that unity gain on a system that's, maybe running at F5 or below, or certainly F6 and below, it's going to be too bright. So a lot of new images, one of their goals is to get longer imaging time. So, all the flags come out and they're cheering and jumping up and down when they get up past 3 minutes, and then it's 5-minute exposures, 10-minute exposures. But while they're doing that, they're not adjusting the gain down.
True.
You're increasing this with a fast optic, and then you're not bringing this back down. And that will mean that effectively the centers of your stars are overexposed.
Nice. I learned something.
But if you just think about that logically, if we went back 5 years, most telescopes were F6 to F7 in a refractor class that you would use for imaging, unless you were using a Newtonian. They were quite popular. So gain of 75 is probably about right, but I would say try it down at 40, and see whether your stars come out with a nicer color in them. Because an image isn't just about that target. And again, depending on your field of view, you could have thousands of different. I have just to answer Conrad's, I haven't tried the IDAS MBZ filter yet. I've got a couple of IDAS filters on the side there yet, but I've yet to get that one in. So that might come in over the next month or so. But an image is a lot of components when you look at it. And I think it's quite soul destroying when you overexpose something. It's almost as bad as being out of focus.
Because you can't get that back.
No, that's it. It doesn't matter. 40 gain's good. I was actually using that last night. So on these, I had the new Red Cat 71 running last night, and I think that's 4.9, and I had that running on 40 gain, and it was quite nice. That was with the 2600 color. Great. So that, when I looked at the stars on that today, they were quite balanced. They were quite nice. You could stretch the object and bring the detail out in the object. So I would definitely be running a little bit lower on it. And remember, this is all about playing. Do try different things. Just because somebody says something, it doesn't mean to say it's always correct, and it doesn't mean to say that they go out imaging with all of this different equipment. Whatever manufacturer it is, whether it's a telescope manufacturer, a camera manufacturer, they can't test each component.
No.
for what the public holds in their room, you know. And if you come to my room, I've got the ability to attach nearly anything to anything.
Pretty much.
You know, so that means then that we can see what's going on. We can try these different things out and these different ideas. But I have always said that I think the unity gain levels given out by a lot of companies is too high. And remember that gain on a camera is a multiplier. It's not a straightforward number plus system. It's a multiplier in the background.
Now,
Do you have the QH?
What does unity gain mean, though?
It's normally a setting that the manufacturer gives out that says that that's where you're going to get the best response from the camera.
I see.
What's become quite common over the last few years is a lot of the cameras, they turn around and say, oh, this camera, if you go above a setting on the gain, it's got extra noise, anti-noise, systems on board. We built this in, we built that in. There was, I was trying to think of it, but it's gone out of my head for one that was brought in a few years back. It doesn't make a lot of difference because you're overexposing your target. So really that's irrelevant. And we have to think like what I was saying, the last 3 years, the key thing from most manufacturers is to come down to sub F5 on the systems.
Now, what about SharpCap's ability to, I know they got a program called sensor analysis.
Yep.
That does the unity gain. What do you?
So sensor analysis in a sense will work, but you have to think that it only works on the clarity of your sky. Yeah.
True.
And if your skies are not that good, you're going to get mixed results on doing things like sensor analysis and stuff like that. So this is why I say, really depending on your system, really, it's down to you to play with this. And I would not hesitate. Now, the other new thing that's sort of come in over the last 6 months, just quickly, is people going for zero gain. And my answer is why? And I'm saying why, because you're removing the dynamic range from the camera.
Yeah.
So it needs some gain, even if it's 10 or 20, it needs a little bit of gain. To come in at zero gain on something means that you're going to put a few hours in there with some of these filters to get some detail. And remember that this modern software now, you looked at those images there, they're clean as a whisper once they've gone through the processing. So that's the key,
Sick divot. No, I'm just worn out. Is unity gain best option regarding the signal to noise ratio?
Yes, it is. But what I'm saying is that really at the end of the day, the higher the gain, the more noise you're going to get in an image.
Of course.
Now we see this, and also bear in mind that when you do flats, some people's quick way of getting around flats is to increase the gain. Now in solar imaging, we get around lots of imperfections and other things by taking live flats and subtracting them from an image.
Yep.
And if I raise the gain up on some of these cameras, it will actually attach to the image. So you're actually introducing this somewhere along the lines if you're not careful. So you have to be quite careful with gain and ISO and things like that.
What about offset?
Offset, I generally keep that. It depends on the model of camera, because again, this is a little bit set by the manufacturer. I normally like the 2600, and again on software, because remember that
they're all different.
Not every company incorporates the camera's drivers into their software. So some are running on ASCOM, but I generally keep the ZWO somewhere around that 20 to 30 on the offset. Yep. If you get too bright, you've also got issues of, like last night it was clear here, and guess what? The moon's out. So if I've got too high an offset, then I'm going to upset the background in the image. So I generally keep it around that sort of 20, maybe 30 sometimes.
Oh, well, that was educational today. I don't know if the audience has any more questions. I think this is the most interactive part of and I think, Gary, you're right. We need to have a Q&A section or episode. We just need to get a panel of people, maybe you, a couple other people, and I just had the audience ask questions if they're having issues with gear, setting up ASCOM, Nina, any of that stuff. So I'm blown away. I'm always blown away when you're on, because you are literally a wealth of information. you have so much information. I don't know where you store it, to be honest.
The thing with Unity, again, I have argued with companies for a long time that, while the value might be the optimal setting for the camera, that's not the optimal setting for your optics.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the camera. You're not including
Yeah.
everything else.
That manufacturer is just using that as a guideline. It's a little bit like a speed limit in a car, isn't it? The car goes to the speed limit, but the car also does double the speed limit. Whether you should drive it there or not, that's down to you.
Correct. Good Lord. But guys, I hope everybody enjoyed the filter conversation, even though, again, I learned a lot. So I think the next episode is going to be it's going to be a Q&A episode to where the audience comes on and y'all are going to just ask questions for us. I think that's what we need to do right now for our customers to know what they're having issues with, if anything. Gary, I always appreciate when you show up, even on late notice as usual. And we always whip out an hour of stuff. But other than that, I'm done. Scott, do you have anything?
No, I would just say, a great audience today, great presenters today. I'm with you. I'm always blown away with what Gary, his depth of knowledge about astrophotography and the ease of which he can, dish out advice. It's awesome.
Pekka has a question too.
Okay, go ahead.
Gary mentioned flats on solar imaging. How do you extract them on pre-processing?
You can do it one of two ways. You can either capture the flat, at set mean value. So I normally, it depends again on the histogram, the software. I use SharpCap. The histogram's faultless in it for planetary and solar capture. So I normally set the histogram at somewhere around 40. And you can use, I'm hunting the office because I know it's here. Here it is. You can use devices like this. There's two ways of doing it. You can either defocus the image, and in software like SharpCap, it's got the option to capture a live flat. And then it will take a series of like 10 images and it will subtract them. Or you can use a diffuser. And this is Daystyle's FlatsCap, which is a diffuser system. Put that on there. This is really good if you're doing full disk solar imaging because it diffuses across the whole field of view.
Nice.
That means then that you don't get the problem of the disk against the black background. So you put this on, raise the exposure up till it hits that sort of 40 on the histogram, and then just select that live, subtract live flat, and away it goes. So it subtracts all your dust out, any vignetting, or any flat field in the filter, because bear in mind that some filters will have variation depending on price and quality and all sorts of different things.
Perfect. Now, was that a glass filter or was that a?
No, it's plastic.
A little plastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
It is specifically designed to go on the front of the telescope to subtract flats. Now, the other way you could do it is capture them as a TIFF file and subtract them in AutoStacker or whatever. So you could defocus and capture these as stills if you're using a different capture software. Let's say you've got a Celestron camera and you're using their capture software. It doesn't offer that option. But you just need to get the histogram a little bit correct, and that's not always easy with some software.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, Pekka, I hope that helped your question. And again, if you have any other questions or anything, you can always email them at which email, Scott? Is it the Explore Alliance?
Explore Alliance at explorescientific.com.
That's it.
Let me write that down.
That's just one of the emails. We're not going to give out the rest. But folks,
if I get any questions, I'll pass out your personal email.
Oh, thank you, Gary. I always knew I could depend on you.
Right.
Lord.
All right.
That's today's show, Scott. So if you want to have any closing remarks.
No, we have next week, we have the 83rd Global Star Party, which is a celebration of Galileo's birthday. He would have been 458 years old, if he was still with us, but it is the 458th anniversary of his birthday. So that's very cool. I was reading about Galileo and his discovery, his measurements of the moons going around Jupiter. And he measured them over, I guess several weeks or whatever. He measured them with an accuracy that Johannes Kepler thought would be impossible, to be able to predict, these orbits. So, really, a guy with a lot of, guy had a lot of controversy, but he was brilliant. And so, and we have to thank him for, getting us all started with telescopes and astronomy anyway. So it would have happened, I think, anyways, but, Galileo certainly pushed it forward. And so looking forward to that global star party. That will start at probably 6 o'clock. It may start earlier, depending on how many speakers that we have. So, but I think that's all I have for right now. You want any closing remarks, Gary?
No, thanks to everybody for watching. It's always good fun.
Okay. All right. You guys have a great weekend. Tyler, thank you very much. And as always, keep looking up. Here we go.